of what we call Graders Notes. So Graders Notes, we pick an issue, it can be any issue out of any company at any random time, and me and my friends, we review it, but also the chat. We bring in the chat and you guys give us a score as well. Putting all those scores together, we find out towards the end, is this book good? Is this book lame? Should we be looking for this book? What's the deal with this book, right? So this week's pick is Marvel Premiere number 45, right? The Man Wolf. So, a very interesting turn for this character in this book this week. Of course, I'm always joined by my Graders Notes crew. And let me introduce first. We're going to bring these guys in. And I'm going to bring them in all at once. Hey, there's the guys. So joining me this week is Genome Presents, David Wyatt. How tell me how about your book today? Sorry about that.
We're reading Marvel Premiere number 45 here. So excellent little pick there by you, Dave. I was actually kind of happy to go over this because I haven't read too much of this series. And I was really eager to get into it. Unfortunately, I could not get it in time. I screwed up. I didn't order it when I should have. And I forgot to come back and order it. So I have to go digital tonight. So please forgive my try-hardness there.
All forgiven. We know you live in the middle of nowhere. So it's hard to get books for you. Also joining me, of course, is the fantastic Roger, also known as the Mighty Metarog. Sir, how are you tonight?
I am blessed, and I am just so psyched because you picked George Perez, you picked Man Wolf, one of my favorite artists and one of my most intriguing characters. So you're on my A list today, Dave.
Nice. Glad my pick pleases. Interesting book. All right. I'm pretty excited to get into it too. This was the first time I actually read it. I've seen this cover a bunch of times, but this was the first time I read it. So speaking of the cover, let's start with the cover. And I think I will go to the bottom here. Roger, you seem the most excited to get into this book, so I'm going to start with you, my friend.
Well, when you were talking comics, it does tend to excite me quite a bit, right? This is a beautiful cover, really, guys. And if you're a Man Wolf fan like I was, or very intrigued about him, he was always kind of, more of a horror-ish, kind of a tragic figure. So he was in ripped up duds most of the time, And then we see this. This is 3 years after the story ended in Creatures on the Loose 37. So when I saw this, I was like, look at that. Wow, what's going on here? How did some mindless lycanthrope turn out to be this? So it's very intriguing cover to me. Again, we're talking 1978, I think, for this. You got the flying dragons, you have the satellite or moon, and you have other star fields. You have that magenta, like almost to a purplish hue. The only things I would say about this cover is that the Man Wolf looks very posed like, which I kind of don't like. I guess you can say he's leading the charge here, but if that's the case, he should be on the flying dragon. But it looks very posed, but he's large and in charge, that's for sure. There's one dragon that's hidden behind him here. I'm not sure why they couldn't put it over here so that we could see the lady. The trade dress is okay. I wish it was something, more analogous to, what Man Wolf is, or, maybe have some kind of, like if we're making him a star god, maybe putting in, some kind of, maybe one of the stones somewhere in the A or something, something to, make it a little bit more stand outish than this. But otherwise, love the detail, love the color scheme. Again, the dragons are a little bit nondescript. They're red inside here because I guess he wants to highlight the Man Wolf. But man, George Perez, beautiful. I think Bob McLeod did the inks here. Great color scheme on that costume. I give it a 4. Again, I'm nitpicking and I'm sort of grading on a curve because George Perez has such totally amazing, awesome, spectacular covers. but really, really good. This really got my attention. 4 all the way.
Very good. Yeah. Had to agree with a lot of the stuff you said there for sure. David, Gino, how did you feel, sir, about the cover of this book?
If you want, I can share the screen, or I'll share a screen that way I can pull it up, and because I was not good enough to get the book like the responsible graders were.
Well, if you were around in 1978 like I was, you would have it.
That's
You're
true.
You're too young.
I was there. I just probably used this for a snot rag at that point. So let me back this off just a little bit. So, okay, this cover. All right, let me start off by one dislike, and then maybe a little descriptor too about Roger's comment about the pose here. I don't like the red and green and yellow color contrast. I don't think it works well for him, but you got to do something to make it stand out. He's albino, so you don't want to use too dark of colors. It's way too like clashing or whatever. So it's kind of G.I. Joe-ish looking right there, even pre-G.I. Joe. But really, that's my only real nitpick about it. I love this cover. I love the reach out, like this 3D effect that his hand has. It's very well done fingers. They're not like blunt and a certain-ish famous artist there. The sword looks kind of cool right there. And when I said something about the pose, I don't know if you guys seen it, but recently there surfaced a letter from Mr. Stan Lee to a young editor-in-chief. We won't say any big names, but he's about 6'6", and probably the most famous editor Marvel's ever had, and took him really to task on some of the cover choices he allowed to come through. And one of them, I believe, was a Cull cover. And he says that heroes on covers need to have their legs wide and braced in like powerful, commanding poses, because the artist had stuck Cull's legs very close together. He says it looks feminine. I don't want to see it on my covers anymore. So if he could take Shooter to task for something like that, maybe this is what they were telling George. It's like, plant this guy's legs out as wide as you can get them, and we're going to make Stan happy. But all that being said, that's about the only thing I didn't like about this cover was his costume coloration. Everything else is just so cool. I love like this like line of Pegasus lizard dragons that are flying behind him here. He's like leading the charge because we found out he's Star God in this one, so it kind of makes sense. And like Josh said, I like the magenta tones in the background. Something else you're going to see in this book, which was masterfully done here by George, is the angles that he does everything. A lot of this takes place in space, so there's like very few flat shots out there. Everything is all canted off to the side because gravity doesn't really mean anything, and this one's just wacky and wild, man. Love it to the backdrop. Yeah, the horses aren't the greatest detail in the world, but you know that's not going to take too far away from it. And you know, he wasn't afraid to get up close on a cover shot with this much detail. I give it a 4. I think it's a really good one. The trade dress is boring as heck. Roger, you're right. They should have like clawed it up, made it look chewed on or something. Or since he's, like you said, Star God now, put some gemstones on it and give it some bling. But, you know, this minor nitpicks aside, it's a really cool cover. I knew it. I didn't even know George Perez had done this book. As soon as I opened this, like I was looking for a signature. I was telling Dave before we got on, I was like, this is Perez. I know this is Perez. And yeah, it was. But yeah, great cover. I give it a 4.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Jackson stands that way all the time.
Not sure how to get our old layout back. Yeah, good enough. So me with the cover. Let us take a look. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that stance, because like he's right, and you can see it in Renaissance paintings and stuff where they put this big, like he's planted, right, and it gives a sense of action to it, like he's doing something, right? You don't stand around in that pose doing nothing. Same with the wide open arms. That hand, that's such a curvy hand, and that hand is like absolutely classic comic book in that there's like a million comic books with that hand on the cover. I guarantee it. You'll start, if you pay attention to that hand, you'll start seeing it on so many comic books. Oh, there it is, right there. There it is, just upside down. Right? There it is. Anyway, so yeah, but I mean, Perez does it great. He always on point with all of his anatomy. Yeah, the costume, I like the color. I don't mind like the green. The green's kind of cool. You don't see a lot of green superheroes or heroes in general. And it works well if you're having like lots of gold on your character. It really offsets that sort of gold looking color, which they did, right? There's lots of gold on that character there. Lots of gemmy stuff. But it's still a little weird to me. Kind of reminds me of like King of Hearts or something. You know what I mean? Like on the guy with the sword. You know that kind of harkens back to that kind of costuming to it. Anyway, the color scheme is good. I know they changed it from the interior to the exterior. Like these dragons are red on the inside, or these flying horse things. Most likely that's because blue ink is the most expensive ink. So they try and limit the amount of blue ink they used in comic books. You ever notice that?
Yep.
So they may have done that just specifically for, who was the editor at this time?
In chief?
Shooter,
it was
right?
Shooter.
Yeah, so it was Shooter. So, Shooter might have said, you got to lower it's Marvel Premiere 45. You got to lower the printing costs for making your flying horses red. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. I like the cover. I mean, it's dramatic. You can tell something's going on, something's going down, right? Up until this point, you've only ever known the Man Wolf as this raging beast. All of a sudden, he's like in clothing, wearing or wielding a sword. And you're like, wait, what? Right? Like he's supposed. Why is he wielding a sword? Anyway, yeah, I too gave the cover a 4. That was a good example of Perez's stuff. Sorry, excuse me. A good example of Perez's early stuff, right? I think this was before he jumped over to DC and started doing Teen Titans and stuff. 1978 was when this one published. But yeah, I gave it a 4. Liked it too. Definitely one of my more favorite covers that we've done here on Graders Notes for sure.
Yeah, nice.
All right.
Very nice. No, we did not get together beforehand and decide this was a 4.
No, okay? We don't tell each other our grades.
No, we don't. Trust me. Trust me on that one.
Certainly did. And you have a new viewer in there, Dave. Smirking Gun Reviews. He had a pretty good comment there for you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on Graders Notes. Hope you like this kind of show as well as the spec choices. By the way, Kenny is missing. He got caught up at work, by the way. We don't want to be dismissive of him. But
as punishment, his next book is Barbie's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do miss you, buddy.
My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is our next one. That'd be funny to actually review that one. Anyway, yeah, we do miss Kenny, but Kenny's, I know it's a busy time at work, right? So he's, he's a hardworking man, and he's put his nose to the grindstone. And
yep, gotta respect that.
Yeah, the dollars, life stuff, and dollars have to pay the bills.
Gotta earn those loonies, right?
All right,
time for some chat raise.
Yeah. Of course, like I was saying, we always bring in you guys, the chat. So we score this out of 5, right? We go on the half point, so you can get a 1 or a 1.5 or a 2, but no, 1.23 or anything like that out there. Okay, just on the half points, just like CGC does it, because we're good that way. But we only go to 5.
Yeah, because we're not pretentious.
Yeah, that's right. We're not full of ourselves. We only go to 5. Yeah, so if you guys could please give us a chat grade. How did you feel about this cover? You can all have taken a good look at the cover while we've been talking here. And yeah, if you could drop our grade and your grade in there, it'd be great.
I'm texting Kenny because I think he's up next. See.
Yeah, we gotta see what his book is, right?
What his comic is, yeah.
So we'll pick it for him.
Yeah, or else, yeah, we'll pick something for him, and he, and that's it. He'll be like, "What?
What? Damn it!"
Here comes another Archie book for him. All right, so
yeah, I've got more Archie for him. Yeah. Let's see
He
what we
likes
got
Archie.
here. A couple mediocre grades there. A couple serviceables. Russ, you've never heard of Man-Wolf? Come on. Come on. He was a Spider-Man villain for many years.
He's doing a James of the Sun.
Even had a crossover in the Capwolf storyline.
Yeah.
Cap.
I really like that storyline.
That's
by the
fun.
way.
I love
It
Grimwald.
was a lot of fun.
That's funny.
Yeah. He was animalistic in that one again. So
Yeah. The
I've never
writers sort of, however it is they want to use him, they'll sort of move him around from one way to the other, either more savage or more. Sometimes it was intelligent John Jameson. Sometimes it was Star God, almost invincible. You name it.
Yeah.
got any more grades coming in?
But like we were saying before, like Man Wolf, he's not like this real big A-lister character. I know you like him a lot, but I mean, he's not a well-known character. Even people are like, really? I never even heard of this guy. So you can pretty much do whatever you want with it, right? He's not a flagship character that you don't have to worry about making big changes to and having people freak out.
Right. Yeah. The editors will give you a lot of leeway on him for sure.
Yeah.
But that to me makes him perhaps even more interesting because you don't know, how they're going to take the direction of the character plot in any one story.
It's true, right? Good.
Yeah, finding what Man-Wolf books are cheap are not easy now. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I bought mine years ago.
Yeah.
I remember I paid $12.50 for his first appearance at the flea market.
That was a good find. Yeah.
Sorry.
I think I got mine for like $2 back in the 80s or something.
I knew I had it here somewhere, but there he is.
There it is. Yeah.
Search for John Jameson Begins.
Yeah.
There it is.
Classic.
I knew you had it because it was a Rick. Was that Rick Levins
Yep.
at that point? Yeah.
You know me, because I love my Levins. So
Yeah. He's good. He's good. Yeah.
all right, we got any more grades in? I think that's all of them. Let me go ahead and tabulate.
Hey Ryan, how you doing? Magic Lasso is joining us.
Can you do
Super Ruff is in here.
calculations?
Joe 4771. Bill, Jackson, Roy, Kirk. Hey Jason, how you doing, buddy? As we said, smirking gun reviews. Sorry. And of course, the unruly one is with us as well. Wait.
Cool.
Big Daddy Wayne. Well, chat comes in pretty close to us. Comes in around a 3.5.
Okay.
Nice. There you go.
Okay.
Decent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah, it is kind of posing because there's not really anything actually happening. You have to assume it's right off screen, off panel. But
Yeah.
I think I think it looks really good.
It's a good pose, but it is posing, and I'm like not too crazy about that.
And something else I didn't mention, I really like to have mentioned, is the fade from that like atmospheric magenta into the deep reds as it goes up higher. I think that's a really cool effect too. It really pops.
Yeah. I really like the coloring.
Agreed.
I thought these dragon things looked better in blue.
All right, we'll see about that, Mr. Myrtle.
All right, so moving along, we're going to hit up. Let's stay with the art. Let's stay with the art for now, and we'll do the interior art. Did Perez follow through and keep it going all the way, killing it on the inside as he did on the cover, or did he kind of phone it in? Was he tired of, why am I doing this kind of artwork? David, we're going to start with you, my friend.
All right.
How did you feel about? Wait a minute. Try this again. Add this. There we go. There you go. You're all set, bud.
All righty. Thank you. Okay. I'll start off with a couple of negatives here. First, just get out of the way because there's not too many. I'm trying to find a good example of it. Maybe this next page. Okay, one thing I don't really care for is George's treatment of the face of Man-Wolf. It looks kind of smashed. I know he didn't always have the long, lycanthropic friggin' muzzle, but just seems off. And I think maybe that part of it is he tried to humanize the face a little more, make it look a little less feral in this iteration. Maybe that's what it was. It off put me a little bit, but maybe it was intentional, so I can give a little credit there. And man, he's got a Thor clone down here. But that's like the main thing I didn't like about this. But just about everything else I love. And that first page I had up here, where did it go? This is like a great example of what I was talking about earlier with the cover. Really look at these panels, because every one of them is like from a really different perspective. And once again, he's on the moon here, so gravity is almost non-existent, right? So here he is like walking on the side of this mountain, right? And here he is approaching this crater from a completely wrong angle, right? Going straight up. Lots of like cool little ticks like this all through the book. And I just love those perspective shots. And that vision behind him is not the moon. It's like the trans version of the moon and the earth right there. So that's the moon up in the sky instead of that. Just so cool. I loved it. There's lots of really basic stuff. This page has a lot of good stuff on it, by the way. Like you have an action shot of him, and it shows a really good command of anatomy, like Dave was saying earlier. Look how he even details this calf, like it's really bulging where it should be bulging and all that. So lots of cool stuff. A lot of cool space scenes. I liked it much better on the moon than I did in the other. But then you got like one of these classic Perez things. This reminds me of that Keebler Elf one we did a little while back.
Yeah.
Say no to drugs, kids.
Yep.
Same kind of panel layer right here.
Yep.
But cool. I mean, it looks cool. So everyone gets a face. Everyone has, and it of course lines up with their thought bubbles or whatever, or their speech bubbles. And here's the dragons in red, or hippogriffs, whatever those things are supposed to be. Very cool. The Earth ones, nothing too exciting going on here, but it's to be expected. But there was some other cool stuff at the end when you got some fight scenes, and I'll wrap it up. A lot of good action panels in this, and they're distinct. One thing I noticed he didn't do too much of is put loads of characters in these panels. Usually they're 1s and 2s affairs, so I think it played to his strength. I mean, he has a couple like splash pagey type things with lots of characters.
Did he freeze?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Frozen out.
Uh-oh. The internet curse.
No worries. No worries.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
I'm back. He's the man behind the mask.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. I think my internet hiccup a little bit there. I don't know where I left off, but basically, he's wise enough to put too much action in there if he doesn't have to, right? A lot of guys in like a scene like this one right here, where he's shooting one guy off a horse. You know, you saw a whole group of them there. A lot of guys are be tempted to throw tons of people back there in the background and not do him much justice. But you know, George knows where his strengths lies, and it's just a solid book with lots of good action at the end. It's rendered really well. And like I said, outside of a few minor nitpicks on faces, which that's kind of a stylistic choice that he's using anyway. So I think it's a really well done book. I gave it a 4 as well. The color scheme is a little off-putting, but you know, it's Marvel in the late 70s. They made it vibrant, big vibrant colors. So cool stuff. I gave it a 4. I liked it.
Sweet. That is cool,
Nice.
my friend.
Check that panel. I love that panel, like the floating rocks and the dull suns. Just so many cool things like that in this book.
All right, so I'm going to hit up the interior art here. So, yeah, I like Perez's art. It's 1978. He was really starting to kind of develop his comic stuff, although I do still see a lot of throwbacks to Kirby, right? Like where he's trying to be Kirby in a lot of stuff rather than George Perez. He does kind of, you know, develop more his own style and take over later on in his career. But yeah, his anatomy is good. Like his anatomy is always better than 90% of the other guys out there. So cool shots, cool space shots like this. I love the way Perez always does like large panels, right? You won't get a full page of very little panels very often from him. He'll always want to be throwing in these larger panels in there, even just like a little bit of oversize or something that just covers up enough of the top. So you can really stretch it out when his art out, right? When he's doing stuff like that. Yeah, and then when they hit that space battle, man, one thing that you can't get when you get the digital version is to realize that, you know, pages 20 and 21 link up together to make that cool shot, which is full of guys in the big battle shot, right? Love that splash page. Everybody who's been watching Raiders Notes before always knows that you're not going to get a good mark on your comic book unless you have a good splash page in there somewhere from me. And this one is definitely a great splash page, man. There's a couple others. There's a couple other splash pages, but then again, like there's always somewhere, within a page or two, a big oversized panel, which I always appreciate from Mr. Perez. He moves the narrative very well with his art as well, right? Like the whole action scene where they're fighting or they're having their big fight, really well done. Like you really feel like, oh yeah, the characters are falling or being hit or trying to hold on to something just by looking at their body movements and stuff. He's so good at that kind of thing. Right? Sorry, I should be showing people that. Right? You can see how she's so in distress. Like that one shot there. No, right? Barely holding on. Yeah. Great shots like that. Like those bigger oversized panels. Not quite a full splash, but there's always, he's always hitting on those things. Great job. I gave it a 3.5 for the interior. Couple of weird little things, couple of kind of too Kirby-esque in a few places, right? But like, I mean, man, you know what? I'm going to change my grade. I'm going to give it a 4. Just because I looked at that page and I really like it again. Right? My second time through, I really like that page. I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to give it a 4.
Excellent.
Yeah, 4 for me from the interior. Okay, so we will move along. There's my brothers. Roger.
Yeah.
Last one on the interior, my friend. How did you feel about the interior of this book?
Well, much the same as you two, actually. When like Genome was saying, I mean, I knew this was George Perez. Even if I didn't, I could tell right from the start here. You have the Perez pulses, or a lot of people call it Kirby crackle or Kirby dots, but he has just a way of doing those pulses or that sort of stream of energy, which is just it's very unique. It's almost like a calling card. And you talk about the faces. Yeah, I think Giacoya was a little heavy-handed here and there on the faces, because when I see Perez inked by like Dan Green, he's a more subtle inker. You see a little bit more detail, but I still think the faces are all unique. The hairstyles are different. The posture is a bit different. So I think that way, he knows how to make individuals. Like when I see a George Tuska, I mean, all the men look pretty much the same. And that to me is just laziness, right? Not Perez. He puts a lot of effort into those little details, right? Like when he comes into the throne room or whatever this is over here, this bigger panel, and look at the posture of the three there. Like they're kind of waiting for something to happen. And now you see how this lady over here, Sashil, has the dagger and the sword, which he has unsheathed like that. A very natural pose. The man is about to unsheath. He's not sure what's coming through that portal. That's the kind of storytelling elements that Mr. Miracle was talking about. That when you look at Perez, he works with the writer. He doesn't try to reinterpret the writer. Okay, and that is something that is very, very. It's not an easy thing to do. Because a lot of times you want to interpose your own story elements, but not him. He accentuates the elements, but he doesn't actually overwrite them or do them however differently than what the writer intends. And we're going to talk about the story, and that's a whole other issue, which we'll get to. I like the design of these dragon horses with wings. I like the little detail, like the tail is a spade. The back hooves are really more like like birds, those little details. He has like scales, that they're pretty much the same color. Some are like a little yellowish, but again, it gives it that sort of, reptilian, dragonish look. Really, really good detail there. I know what Mr. Miracle was talking about. There's definitely some Kirby-esque sort of channeling going on. These two panels there to the right, where that guy is jumping and then smashing. I can pull a Thor book and I show you that exact same scene. Okay, that is taken right from the Kirby Chronicles, right there. So maybe he's still learning his craft at this point. And another thing, the Man-Wolf's mouth is always open, even though he's talking telepathically. So I thought that was a little bit odd. I mean, I guess he wants to make him more feral, or trying to, but like Genome says, he actually more humanizes. The snout is not quite as prolonged, which again sort of humanizes him. I guess makes him more like the Star God, less like the out of control Wolfman. But I like this one here. Notice the skull behind the helmet. He has those little cracks there, and then you can see the spine underneath there. These are all little details that really, just make the story, the art more pleasurable, because it's not something he could have just drawn a helmet there with a couple eyes. No, he draws the details, and then this here could make a nice little poster to put on my wall right there. So yeah, he's excellent at working with the writer. Smooth transitions on the panels, variety of different layouts, but they all work pretty well. And that centerfold, guys, is worth the price of admission alone. Let me just show it before I give you my grade, because this is one of those jaw-dropping kind of things. Look at that. And that's sort of kind of Kirby-esque too. It's like you could draw this big battle between Asgardians and trolls. It would be in a similar layout, but Perez does it really well in his own right. So yeah, I'm with you 100%, guys. I got it. I gave it a 4. Little nitpicky things about the Kirby-esque kind of copying there, or maybe just he just has that influence. But other than that, and a little bit of the over inking on Giacoya, that's not a Perez thing. Giacoya there. But otherwise, this is a solidly artistically well-drawn book for it.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Good review. Good one. So, of course, we always invite the chat to give us their grades. If you have a copy that you haven't looked at in a while, maybe take a look. Of course, we've been playing a few of this up on the screen when we talk. I have that up there. People can take a look at some of the interior art if they like. And yeah, if you could give us your chat grade, we would appreciate it. We'll tally them up and we'll come to a consensus in the end here.
Excellent. I didn't even notice this before. I want to zoom in this real quick. Look what he did with these feet on these green. He made them hands instead of hooves back there. Wacky. Oh, yeah. Can you see it? Yeah. They're like little fingers back there. That is so wacky. I love it.
Yeah, his detail on those, on everything is just amazing.
But no, I don't know where you're seeing Kirby right here at all.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Oh man, when you've seen as many comics as I have, you see everything. I see everything and everything else. Sometimes I have to think: is that Kirby? Is that Buscema? Is that Adams?
But I tell you what, well, this might be something inking through. This is more of like the shading here is definitely more Buscema line work here. So those heavy bold lines of Kirby. So it's like almost he fused them right there, all in one character. Kind of interesting.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and like he definitely developed his own style. Got away from that. Yeah, love that stuff. I mean, like you're saying, there isn't always a lot of guys in the background. I guess a lot of that, like if you're a digital artist today, it's just a matter of copy and paste, and you can put a ton of guys in their background. It'd be tough if you're trying to draw a ton of little guys and stuff. So it's
yeah.
smart to develop a style that's a little more minimal. You know.
There was another really good one too, where let's see. It's like actually, once again, this is more of a Buscema picture. Where is it at? Where he's just kind of lounging, which I thought was a really good shot.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
I think it's back here somewhere.
Yeah.
Look at this shot right here. Sorry, right here. Like his arm draping there is so freaking good, man.
Yep.
And his other arm's just hanging. He's kind of tired. He's washing himself off, from that long swim he had. Swimming tires him out, not battle, but look past that. Very cool stuff, though.
Yeah, it's not quite sitting on the throne with your contemplation like Buscema does, but yeah, it's close. Yeah. Hey, Jigs Kingdom, welcome.
Cool.
Billy from Economics and Comics is the sickest. Okay. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Right, so we're getting everybody's chat grade in now. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, one more.
Let's see. I'll give you like 5 more seconds. If you got a grade, put it in. Oh, there's one more. There's always one more. Heroes to Icons. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Jason. Yeah, Damien, you're right. It is hard to go down, with the Kirby influence. You're right. I mean, I think that's correct. But at some point, you have to realize that we want original stuff. We don't want something that's been already done.
All right. The chat has excellent taste as well, and it came in with a 4. So, hey, consensus. I love it. That's a 4 across the board on that one.
Page. Nice. 4 it is then. Okay, so let's move along to the story. Right, let's get to the meat of the issue. I always find, you can have really great art in something, and then wind up terrible story, and it just wrecks everything. Right, like you can just be like, "Wow, the art was cool, but man, that story was weird or dumb or didn't make any sense." Right, this one. I mean, you're taking this character, and you're going to take him in an entirely different direction than what he's previously been. Taking away from being a villain, taking him away from being this mindless monster, and they do it in a way that's plausible. That kind of makes sense. Like, oh, what if that was? Because I mean, if you think about the Man-Wolf's origin story, where he just finds this gem on the moon and turns into the Man-Wolf. And I'm like, well, where did that gem come? Was there a gem in there on the moon in the first place, right? Well, this book explains that. Makes sense to why he would all of a sudden get his brains back, right? Like why he would all of a sudden become John Jameson again, rather than just being the mindless Man-Wolf, right? I like the whole origin story, and the origin story, like the sort of soft reboot of Man-Wolf, was handled really well and fast. Right, it happened within the first few pages. They didn't dwell on it. This whole issue isn't about it. Like he literally just walks through the door on page 3, and he's not the Man-Wolf anymore. Right, so I love that. Right, but books like this where they all of a sudden plop in a brand new character, and we've said this a million times on Graders Notes. They get first issue itis, right, where they have to expound about everything they're doing and where the characters came from and what's going on, and everybody talks. Well, I love the way they handle this quick. They don't have to have a big explanation for it. They just kind of touch on it, and boom, we're off with the story. I like the way they handle the character being confused and stuff like that. Of course he's confused. He was a mindless werewolf 5 seconds ago, and all of a sudden he's back, right? The war makes sense. One of the things that always bothers me, and we say this on Graders Notes all the time, this book was wordy, right? This book is not wordy. It's very well done. It's got really good pacing, and where they're just going through stuff quick. Like, okay, we're just telling this quick story, and it's just a little one-off. We're not trying to establish this big series all of a sudden, right? We're just in a couple issues of Marvel Premiere, so we're just going to touch on this and get to the action, and that's basically what they do. and you know, the dialogue that goes along in the battle is all about the battle. They don't talk about other weird stuff during the battle. The story makes sense, like the battle makes sense. You get a lot of sense of dread and anxiousness and betrayal and all kinds of stuff that are happening in this battle. Is all, you know, as these guys are like, you know, how do they know we were coming? We've been betrayed. They're ready for us to attack, and they're watching their friends die. And it's like they're not pulling any punches in that kind of respect. They're killing off some of the heroes right off the bat, and you know, outright killing these skeleton guys. They can do quite gruesome things to the skeletons because they're not people, right? So they're not going to break the Comic Code Authority by smashing his head off or whatever, right? If there was a person, you definitely cannot decapitate them and get your Comic Code Authority approval. But because they're skeletons, that was a good choice for the writing. So obviously these guys are smart. They've been reading comics. They know what the deal is about how to, you know, please the editor while still being able to do stuff. And yeah, like we said, you can go hog wild with this character because nobody cares about the Man-Wolf, really, right? I mean, people do now because he might be in a movie, and so that makes him important all of a sudden, right? I'm like, well, it's got to get to the point where we've had so many of these shows and movies and stuff that it's not that important that he's in a movie anymore, right? But yeah, neat. I thought it was a good way to take the character. Much in that same, you know, it's sword and sorcery in space. It's Dungeons and Dragons in space, right? So, you know, that kicks ass. You can't go wrong with that. And then picking a character like the Man-Wolf to do it with was an interesting choice, you know, and it worked. In my opinion, it worked. I gave the story 3.5. I thought it was really good. I'm actually going to go and find, you know, Marvel Premiere 46 so I can figure out, you know, how does this sort of little story arc here pan out for us. But yeah, I give her a 3.5 from me. All right, so we're going to rotate down again. Mr. Medrog, Sir Roger. Like you said, you're a Man-Wolf fan. Was this one of the books that pulled you into being a Man-Wolf fan? Or was this one of the books that you were like, well, not what I'd like to see? Anyway, you know, tell us your opinion, sir.
Yeah, a little bit of both. This story arc actually started in Creatures on the Loose 36 and then 37. And this is unusual, right? Because they knew this was going to be canceled. So they actually wrote the rest of the story in the letters page here. So 3 years later, they did it. You know, so I already had foreknowledge of what was going to happen. But even with that foreknowledge, I didn't think it was going to be from more horror and angst and tragedy to this fantasy sword and sorcery kind of aspect, right? Where now magic and you know, science be damned, sort of is the actual change of genre. And there's the only thing I would say in this story is that there's a subplot where his girlfriend or fiance, John Jameson, Man-Wolf's, was kidnapped, right? And it's kind of like really glossed over here. And so it's, if you didn't read those Creatures on the Loose issues, you're kind of like, don't understand what this has to do with this story arc. It almost seems like a non sequitur, but on the next issue, you see why that is important. But I don't think they did I think Kraft has had this in mind from way back when, but I think because of the sudden cancellation and then picking this up, it kind of like jump started things, and to me it was like almost like a shock to see this. Because it automatically, I remembered the Creatures on the Loose storyline. It was a cliffhanger, just stopped. He was flying to the moon, and he turned into the Man-Wolf, and we don't know what happened. You know, so I'm glad that that's going to be in the concept that they finished this story or with these two issues. I kind of agree with you, Mr. Miracle. I think it was cool to try to take the Man-Wolf into another direction. Obviously, it's very tropish the way they were doing it before. You know, he was in New York City, and when he turned, you know, he tried to barricade himself, but he was always get out, and he would always find himself in a position to not kill people. You know, although he would maim them and so forth every once in a while. It's very difficult to keep that going. You know, that's that one trick pony over and over and over. So yeah, I do like this direction. Almost like you said, Conan-esque in a sense. Maybe that was kind of big at the time. So maybe that's what they were thinking, to taking it in that direction. I like that they did in the letters page here, they actually gave you the background story as well, so you're not totally lost. But really, you need to read those issues to really get the gist of what's going on with that subplot, which ultimately leads to the big baddie in the next issue. So I wish they would have done a little bit better in this issue, sort of streamlining that and give us a little bit more information about this Turk guy and Christine. So I think that was kind of a misstep. But I really did like all the aspects here. You have the freedom fighters, you know, the good versus evil. This is classic stuff here. Nothing groundbreaking, I would say, but certainly it is an entertaining tale. It flows well, has, like I said, it has dialogue, but it's not overly written. You know, I can't give it a 3.5 because I didn't find it that immensely interesting. Because if you just sort of drop into it, it just seems like it was such a stark difference that, to me, as an old-time reader of Man-Wolf, I was like, what the heck is going on here? Even though I had that foreknowledge, I never thought it would be this far afield from the previous plot line that David Kraft himself was that wrote those Creatures on the Loose issues. But I found it better than serviceable for sure. So I gave it a 3. And definitely I want to find, when I bought this one off the stand, because obviously Man-Wolf, right? And the next month I was at the stand there to get 46s. I got to know what was happening with that Christine Saunders storyline, because that was dangling for 3 years. And I know you're like, who the heck is that? Metarog, he gets caught up in the obscure nature of these characters, and I had to find out. So 3. It could have been better, I think, if they would have sort of melded the subplots a little better in this issue, because this is the first one in 3 years. I found that was a misstep, but still the story is interesting. I like the direction they were taking it. They took a chance, and I think it did work. 3.
Is the first issue of Marvel premiere in 3 years?
No, first issue of Man-Wolf since that Creatures on the Loose.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay. Yeah, that would have been weird if they just picked it up 3 years later.
Yeah.
All right, so we've heard from the Man-Wolf superfan what he thinks of this issue storyline. Let's see of the Man-Wolf curmudgeon. How did you feel about it, sir?
Well, you actually touched on it pretty succinctly here at the beginning, but let me just say, if this book was written in more modern times, this would be like 2 or 3 issues, like the build up to like him going to war, right? But they didn't waste any time. This book hits the ground running. Within about 6 pages, you are on Otherworld or Otherrealm. It's crazy. From Man-Wolf not knowing anything, he finally gets his mind back. Within 5 minutes later, he's volunteering to lead the armies to take back Otherrealm. It's awesome. It's refreshing. I mean, this is how comics used to be written, you know. They weren't these long sweeping sagas that we had to get used to, you know, and people dragging it out just so they wouldn't have to think of a new concept for a while. It's fun. I mean, yes, it's a little nonsensical. Like, how does he get to Otherrealm? They don't know. I don't know how he gets there. You know, why is it the second they fly in, they're battling all these unfaceless henchmen? Who's the bad guy? You know, we don't know any of this stuff. And if you're just reading Marvel Premiere, you're never going to know that. You'd actually had to read some Man-Wolf stuff before or whatever. But I don't know. I like that that era of writing, and that style was just fun. And one of my few detractions of this book, I like to always usually go to the detractions first, is towards the end, Manwolf and the Thor lookalike guy start having, or no, I'm sorry, the caveman looking guy start having like this weird banter that's very like Streets of New York with like typical city or Marvel City terminology they use back in the books. That was a little off-putting and strange and didn't make any sense to me. But I mean, other than that, it's just a good, solid comic book story. It's almost paced like it's going to be a one of, but apparently obviously runs into another issue or two. And I would like to read the next one. Just because, I don't know, it's just interesting, non-pretentious, and fun. It is definitely not bereft of dialogue whatsoever, but I think this is like the almost perfect amount of comic book dialogue. It lets you know exactly what's going on. It does not rely on paragraph after paragraph of exposition to hold your hand through everything. No, it just gives you the basic premise. Oh, here, pick up the sword, lead our armies. Okay, let's go fight these armies. Here's your armor. Okay, let's fly into this group of bad guys. How much talking do you need to get done? But like more modern people will just make page after page of dialogue. Just get to it. And it's a comic book. So I kind of dig on that. So all that being said, the story wasn't like anything exceptional, but it's cool to take him into a new direction. One page, he's a savage, mindless savage. The next, he's a super powerful and rediscovering his intelligence, man wolf or god wolf, whatever you want to call him at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3 for the story. I enjoyed it. And outside of a little bit of off-putting toward the end, there was nothing really wrong with it. It's just kind of a fun, offbeat, but really, really fast-paced book. So 3. Cool.
Nice. Miracle?
I'm getting there. Hang on.
I'm just going to sit here and look steadily at the camera with my bedroom eyes. Yeah.
I can only increase views. We do that.
Okay.
All right. So, very good. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of stuff you were saying there, Dave. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, I should have said that too. But 3, still, I was, we've given a lot worse scores to stories on this. Like, I thought it, like, the pacing was the thing that got it for me. Anyways, let's bring the chat in here. We'll get your story grade. I'm not sure if, how many of you have read this recently or not, or even just, from what we reviewed, if you got the gist of it, do you think like making Manwolf into the man god, intelligent Manwolf, space warrior, Conan sorcery guy is a good idea, or not? Like, so it was an interesting story in that sort of respect. So if you could go ahead and give us your chat grade, we'd very much appreciate it. Yeah, it was a cool story, man. I like the idea where you have where the character just takes this really unexpected turn, right? Like, go nuts with them if you're allowed to, right? And I'm sure, like, the pacing of the story was so fast because I'm sure they were like, we want like 12-issue miniseries. And Shooter was like, no, you can have 2 issues in Marvel Premiere. So they had to like, we got to write this fast, get going. Probably a lot of people bugging them, just like you were, Metarog, about finishing that story arc as well. And when they're only given 2 issues, they're like, okay, we got to get everything established here so we can get onto this. Or the next con I go to and a fan asks me about it, I'm going to freak out. You're going to get this done.
Interesting is that in Creatures on the Loose 37, Kraft said if he had one more issue, he could have finished the story arc.
Right.
So imagine it compressed into 1 issue instead of 2.
Well, if he probably had a different idea rather than having to make him into the Star God or whatever.
No,
right?
He had the same. If you read Creatures on the Loose 37, it's exactly the same story that you're seeing there. Exactly. And that's what's surprising because it looks like they went into a different direction. But actually, that was the plan all along. But he had said, I don't want to finish it on a cliffhanger, but he got told it was canceled right as it was going to be turned in. So he just did a letters page synopsis of it. And that would have been 1 issue compressed into 1 issue. I don't think it would have worked, honestly, because I think that would be too much compression. The next issue, we get introduced to the villain and the Christine, how he uses her to manipulate the John Jameson, et cetera, and then we have another battle, between the rebels and you will see the evil there because of what he does to the captured the 3 that he captured there. I think that works better. If he would have compressed it too much, I think it would have been it would have been too vapid. You need something with a little more depth, and I think 2 issues would, maybe even 3 would have worked. Yeah,
I could handle another issue of extra story on this one.
Here, let me give you a little look at 46, so you can sort of glean a little bit here, but that there is the big baddie, Harrison Turk, and there is Christine. So
that's kidnapped for 3 years.
That who had kidnapped for 3 years, and in anticipation, it's sort of like finding a solution for a problem that did not exist, right? Just in case that he would be shot to the moon and find that portal, and these guys would find him and make him into the sort of Katniss of the other realm. Okay.
Yeah, the other world or other realm. That's very Kirby-esque too, I thought.
Yeah.
Something else to the intimated at the very, very beginning of the book, which I thought was a really cool touch, almost like a Burnian touch there, was like how he got more physically powerful as the closer he got to the moon. I thought that was really cool. So when he landed, suddenly he's ripping doors, metal like bulkheads off. That was a really cool little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because on Earth he's like about Spider-Man level of strength, right?
Yeah, I think
definitely
just above metahuman. Yeah,
maybe just below. Yeah, but much more savage. Yeah.
But like he's not ripping off vault doors or anything like that.
No. I think he ripped off a car door, but it took him a little effort. Yeah.
All right.
But those old cars were all steel. Yeah. Oh, silly.
Yeah. If it was one of those cars from Cuba from the 50s, those things would take a howitzer.
They had to build them to last because they weren't going to get new ones for 55 years.
Yeah.
They still have a Studebaker dealership there, I hear.
Well, I don't know about a dealership, but they have them. My uncle had one for many years.
And chat, once again, comes with the astute grade of a 3. So, man, we are on the same page. We're only off by 0.5, basically, on all of our scores. So, not bad.
Yeah, that's a good point by Jackson Roykirk, and that's why you have to sort of think about how the writers when Conway used him, you could rip that off his throat, and Spidey threw it in the river, and he reverted back to John Jameson. Here, it had grafted itself into his throat, so they couldn't. So again, a different plot device there.
Well, but did they explain why? Did he go dive for it and put it back?
I forgot how he got it back, but yeah, there was some shenanigans that got it back on him, and then he couldn't get it off. Yeah.
Right. This parents here.
Is that snowmobile going by again, Dave?
Snowmobile.
Hey, Logan Torres.
Hey, look at that. I'd like to have the book.
Yeah, I spec'd on it 2 years ago on my channel. Nobody listened to me then.
Well, we didn't expect him to be in the movies, for goodness sake. They get some people to draw from.
Yeah, I guess right. All right. So where are we at? Did we get our chat score in?
Yeah, it's a 3. Same as ours.
On to the concept, my friend.
On to the concept. So, yeah, I'm thinking this one's going to be our wildest category here on the yays or nays on the concept. David, we'll start with you, sir. How did you feel the concept of this book was? Did you like the sword and sorcery in space, Man-Wolf, or maybe not so much?
It's almost like Conan meets like the Knights of the Round Table kind of Arthurian legend. It's interesting, fun, a little bit camp, but I don't know, cool. If you got a character, we talked about this a little bit offline, like that is bound and destined to get canceled, do what you want with it. So yeah, do some fun with it. I don't know. It was kind of interesting to turn basically the lizard, like a mindless raging beast, into the leader of a newly freed world. Sure, why not, right? Space pirate / Robin Hood and whatever else you can throw at him. Fun concept. They were also helped along by throwing a class friggin' artist on it too, so they didn't cheap out on what essentially wasn't a big selling book for them anyway, and a character really wasn't going to go too far after this. But I don't know. I thought it was a really good concept. Take a character and give him some actual depth. Okay, he's not just a mean bad guy. This is like making Absorbing Man like take, I don't know, Lex Luthor spot or something, if we're going to do a crossover, I like the revamping of the character into something maybe a little more interesting. Now, I am a big proponent though of leaving, like, especially werewolves, like very feral beasts and mindless. So, that part is a little off-putting. I like the fact that there can still be some monsters out there who maybe not necessarily evil. They just can't control their savagery. That's kind of cool. But I don't know. I like the concept, man. You turn him into the swashbuckler and the leader and the star god and make him super powerful. You put him in kind of a fun storyline with a cast of characters. This is once again almost like an Asgardians ripoff here, like the Brothers 3, the Fighters 3, or whatever it is. But should have had like Volstagg come and join them just for more fun, right? But I don't know. I liked it a lot compared to a lot of the concepts we've seen. I think this is definitely one of the at least more enjoyable ones, if not better ones. And the only shame of it is that I don't think it was going to go too much farther than this little, mini they had going on here. And this is like the recreation of this in the right hands could actually lead to maybe another series, which I think would have been kind of cool to see the adventures in Other Realm, and maybe he could go back and forth. Maybe Jonah Jameson could pay off like the Mad Thinker or something to build a portal to the other world, Other Realm, and they could see his son, and then they'd have some conflicts there. Who knows? But there's a world of possibilities when you do something like this with a character. Or maybe he gets over there, starts losing his power. Maybe he turns human over there and goes on feral rampages there as a human. Who knows? But lots of cool things you could do with it. And I kind of like their approach here. I think it was fun. When you got a character on the ropes, do something fun with them. What are you going to lose? Make it interesting. So I gave the concept a 3.5. The only real detraction of it is the fact that I don't think they ever tended to go very far. They were just kind of cleaning up the loose ends in the character, which is cool. And but they could have done a very big disservice by throwing crap art on it, giving it a boring, sloggy story that was just there to tie up loose ends and not actually entertain. And I think it was an entertaining book. And the cover makes you want to buy it. So that's another part of the concept, which I think is good. So yeah, 3.5. Nothing revolutionary, but I think a very, very solid concept.
Oh,
I always do that.
yeah.
All right, nice. I will hit the concept up here myself. Okay, first of all, hi Logan. I see people are asking like, oh, Mr. Miracle, do you think Marvel Premier 45 has any potential as a spec book? Absolutely not. No, don't buy this as a spec book. It'll never increase in value, really. It's just a fun book that we decided to do a review on. So yeah, don't buy this as any kind of spec stuff. As the concept goes, I like it. I like absurdity in comics. I do. I really, really do. I think comics need to be absurd in order to be a really good comic book, right? That's why I'm such a big fan of Jack Kirby stories and the old 60s stories and the Bronze Age stuff, where crazy things going on all the time, where a werewolf can actually go to the moon, walk through a portal into another dimension and become a god, right? Like that sort of absurdity can only happen in a comic book or in the movies. You know what I mean? It's just so far from reality. So taking a character that really nobody cares about and like just doing this to it, right? Like turning it on its head 100%. I also like the fact that there were obviously fans out there that wanted to see that Creatures on the Loose storyline concluded, right? Like, where they felt like ripped off. So, part of the concept has to be that they wanted to finish that for the fans, which I also like. I hate like I said, we talked about this before, you know, like John Byrne refuses to finish the last Galactus story. And it's just like, why? Why? We know you have it. We know you have it. Just give it to us, Matt. Right. So, you know, for these guys to go out of their way to make sure that they concluded that line for fans, you know, you get thumbs up for that, right? Like, that's good. You gotta feed the fans. You gotta know where your toast is buttered, right? Like, you know, those are the guys that buy comic books. And I'm sure seeing this on the cover with this great cover and stuff, I'm sure this was a bump in sales for Marvel Premiere than, you know, the month before or whatever. But concept of this book I thought was pretty cool. A couple of guys really stretching their creative legs and, you know, bringing a story where they've completely changed the character in a fundamental way, in a way that makes sense, though. I mean, it's absurd, but if this really happened, that would make sense that would happen that way, you know. So for me, take a look at what I got. I gave it a 3.5, right? I guess Man Wolf, you know, you could have picked somebody else for this, but I mean, it's good. I like it. I liked it. And yeah, I gave the concept a 3.5. Metarog, my friend, you're up last here.
All right. Well, it looks like we're pretty much in agreement for this one, guys. I like what you said there, Mr. Miracle, in that this is one of those times where Marvel actually, you know, listened to the fans. I mean, they wanted a resolution to this story arc, and I think it went to a very different, even though we read the plot, right? It visually, you know, I had imagined it in a very different way. I didn't imagine it so majestic and so it has sort of a regal and had a very mystical aspect to it, which I didn't really expect. So they surprised me in a positive way. And I think, you know, when you consider Marvel already had a Werewolf by Night, who, again, you know, it was that kind of out of control night thing. So they had to break him out of that kind of trope. Otherwise, they'd have two characters with very similar destinies. And they also broke him a bit out of the Spider-Man mythos. I mean, he had his own kind of villain, his own kind of path here. There's a character called Simon Stroud in there. That was one of a police investigator who was always after him in Creatures on the Loose, and that melded into here. And we see Jonah Jameson kind of a little bit more emotional, a little bit more human than, you know, that gruff, constantly after, you know, vengeful, just trying to discredit Spider-Man at every turn. Here we see a much softer side to him. He's concerned about his son's fiance and his son who went, you know, to the moon. So again, we're seeing different aspects, the same characters, but different aspects of their lives. And I think that's like, I think Genome said, they didn't just throw something out there to finish the arc. They put a lot of thought. They put a good team. They gave them 2 issues instead of just one to sort of, hey, just wrap it up. So I think that I give Marvel editing here a little bit of credit to give these creators that leeway. I mean, it's not groundbreaking. Again, I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know exactly visually how it would sort of unfold. And I think the concept here is that exactly that they gave another aspect here to these characters that otherwise would have been, you know, stuff that we would see in a million times in the superhero comics. It went into that. I think that Knights of the Round Table was a good analogy, Genome. I didn't even think of that, but now that I think about it, yeah, it's sort of like, hey, you know, the King's Court is sort of like the gauntlet runners, you know, the people that have to get it done, and they found their King Arthur, you know. So, you know, good on them that they made this in such a way that it was different, it was at least mildly interesting, and it wasn't just a throwaway story. and it gave the characters their own little spotlights, and not just pigeonholed them into the same old tragic figure. And I like the redemption story. So to me, to have John Jameson from a cursed, hopeless individual to now being quite the opposite, being a savior, and then in the second issue, ultimately he goes back to Earth and can have a more normal life. I'm with you 100%. 3.5. I think it's perfect grade for this concept. Excellent.
Nice. All right, Roger. So, of course, last but definitely not least, we add the chat. How do you guys feel about the concept of this book? Is it kind of a little too out there for you? Or is this up your alley? Do you love it? Yeah, so go ahead and give us your chat right now. Three of us will have a little discussion in the background while that happens. Oh yeah, there's lots to like about this book. Yeah, definitely not a spec book though. If they did this storyline as a movie or even as like a TV show, I think it'd be weird. The most I could think that would ever get some kind of media property to it, maybe a what if episode if they did a season 2 or whatever, maybe later. But yeah, really, other than that, no, I can't really see this book.
This was before Marvel had miniseries, like the 4-issue limited series, else that would have worked, I think, for this concept very well. I think
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of the perfect kind of mechanism for that. But at least Marvel Premiere gave you, some kind of vehicle for the conclusion of this and other stories. And of course, on the very next story arc is the first story arc by Scott Lang as Ant-Man. And that, again, is another 2-issue story arc. So, again, these were limited series before there were limited series.
Well, I mean, I guess the first limited series that I can think of is Human Torch.
Contest of Champions.
The contest. That was an actual... Yeah, because, the Human Torch ones were reprints of Strange Tales. So I think the first actual one was Contest of Champions, 1, 2, and 3.
Right. And that has a kind of a history behind it too. I mean, we're not going to get into it now, but that was kind of a failed story that they were trying to put into another comic. But it had to do with the Olympics and us boycotting. So anyway, we'll get into that some other time.
Weird. Yeah, Contest of Champions. Yeah, like these old books, I think, like things like in Marvel Premiere, that's where they would throw that story. Like now, like you said, now, or in the 80s or whatever, they would do the limited series. But back then, they had titles like Marvel Premiere just to do a 2-off or a 3-issue off. You know what I mean? I know Doctor Strange was in here for 30 issues or so.
Yep.
But it's a good idea too. It's a good place to wrap up. Lots of storylines are hanging loose, out there, and it's just one more thing on the shelves.
Without really having to go to and break away from whatever story continuity they have in the main storyline, right? Like if they were to do this in a Spider-Man comic, because he was originally a Spider-Man villain, it would throw the Amazing Spider-Man title completely off. You know what I mean? Like people would not be happy about that.
Ken Byrne, if you have a grade for it, go ahead and give it to me now before I tabulate. You said you're on board. Yeah. So methinks you have a grade. Let us see it.
And thank you for the great compliment, Smirking Gun Reviews. That's about as good as it gets right there, guys.
Yep, amen to that. Such a fun show to do.
It
made more so by doing fun books like this.
It is a lot of fun. Well, even if it's a bad comic, it's
I know those can be some of the most fun.
Yeah, as long as it's not a Kirby thing and Biggie's in the chat, we're fine.
Yes, no doubt.
We still have to do another McFarlane. Still lean towards the 4. Okay, there it is.
Still leaning
Okay,
towards 4.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. I think we may have been outpaced here.
Yep, we have been. The chat actually went above us in this one. It went with a 4.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay.
This might be the closest book that, like, as a group, one of the closest books we've ever done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
All of our
all of us
grades.
as a group.
They're all within
All right,
0.5 of each other.
Let's get into the overall of this book. We'll wrap her up. So here are the overall. Just going quick. We won't even go with the solo layouts or anything. We'll start with you, Metrog. You're the big fan here. How did you feel about it overall?
Well, pleasantly surprised in one regard, and that is because I didn't expect that cliffhanger to ever be resolved. But the cover, man, when I saw that cover on the 7-Eleven rack back in 1978, right? I was like, I had limited funds, right? I mean, I was mowing lawns, I was doing errands. I was like, this was like the first or second I got off the rack, because I was like, oh, you're kidding me, they did it, that kind of thing. So that cover, really grabbed me. I mean, back then I wasn't quite as critical about those things I am now. So that was a must buy. So that cover works. I mean, it just works in so many levels. The art inside, the same thing. I mean, there's just not really a bad, we nitpick and hair split, but I've read so many comics with bad art that I'm like, some I've had to jettison from my collection just because it upsets me, right? And I'm sorry if I get so, I really get engrossed in my comics. I apologize, I guess, in one regard, but that's just the way I am, right? But this
I know how you feel, man.
What was that?
I said, I know how you feel. I don't have Aliens versus Predator in my collection anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sure you don't. I remember that episode very well.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and check Rader's notes for Gino for that one. Oh, Biggie's in the chat? All right. So, anyway, I'll wrap it up. Story, again, I knew what was coming, but I think it was still well done. A totally radical kind of shift that I was at first really shocked to read about, but it worked. I mean, it was a fun read. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't, transcendental or anything, but it was a good read, a solid read. Not the biggest David Anthony Kraft fan. Sometimes he's a little bit out there on the wordiness, but here I think he muted himself just a little bit. He kept it to a nice pace, didn't go overboard. I think because he had written it so long ago, he really had time to refine it. So good on him. The concept, we just said it. I mean, what can you say, man? Manual from, tragic, just downtrodden, hopeless to now savior, godlike, warrior, next to invincible. Redemption stories. I love them. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it was good enough. So I gave that a 3.5 as well. And overall, I'm right at the cusp of 3.5 or 4. I gave the story a slightly lower grade. I'm going to go 3.5. Maybe after listening to you guys, I'll go up to 4. But I think that this is a solid comic, much better than average, with many, many highlights. It's just the timing of it and the fact that they didn't have a little more of the conjunction from the previous storyline. That one subplot that was kind of glossed over might have been better melded. I'm nitpicking. This is really a 4, but I'm nitpicking. So I'll give it a 3.5.
3.5. All right. Sounds good. Gino, my friend, how about you? How did you feel about it?
All right. I have a feeling Roger's going to be changing his grade, but here we go. So, quick rundown. The cover, gave it a 4. I really dug it. I like the color scheme other than the outfit, but that was mandated by the editor-in-chief. I don't know, whatever the case may be. Wasn't crazy about that color, but I like everything else about the cover. Even though it's a posing cover, it still looked cool. Gave it a 4. Interior art, same grade, 4. Perez is really good. Even at this point, he was still amazing. And while he may have had a lot of, shall I say, homages to and styles to older artists, he still carved out his own niche, and I liked it. I liked the interiors. I didn't like a few things, like the faces have been both someone that might be the inker had some of that to do with that. But I gave it a 4. Good solid art within. For the story, I gave it a 3. This is my lowest grade for the book, and it's not indicative of a bad story. It's just a brief comic book story. In a way, that's a really good thing, but it's nothing mind-blowing, breaking. But it is taking the character in a new direction. That's more of the concept thing than anything. But as far as stories goes, yeah, it's basically smashing freaking Conan into Rom Space Knight's world or something. I don't know, with a mix of Doctor Strange in there with jumping around. 3, gave it a 3, solid and better than average. And concept, I gave it 3.5. Really good concept. Take a character who was languishing, maybe a few really hardcore fanboys really wanted to see the resolution of it. Hey, we got a series that's specialized in that. Let's give them two books. We'll put a great artist on it and take the character in a 180 direction, man. He is totally different now, and it's wacky and it's ludicrous, and I loved it. And it was short. I can't get over that, stress that enough. Sometimes you want a comic book to be short, and this is one of those cases where it's not. They didn't make it short because they had no material. They just made it brief, and it moved along. So gave that a 3.5. My overall score, according to math, was 3.6. So it should be technically a 3.5. I'm going to go up. I'm going to give this a 4, actually, because this book is a breath of fresh air. This, not every book has to be, Frank Miller, freaking epic, or a John Byrne 25-issue story around or wraparound story. This is a good 2-parter, fast comic book, and it just harkens back to a time when it was a little more innocent and people weren't so jaded and expecting these huge revelations at everything. We got a savage beast, and now he's a god in another land. Great, move on, next story. So fun stuff. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. I think it was a really good book, and I was very happy to read it, and actually would like to read the next one. So 4 from me. Dave, you're in the box.
Again. Your mic's off again.
No, is that still work? No.
There it
is. Yeah, there's always these there's guys with these tuner cars that go running by here all the time, and there's one guy, and he's so loud it shakes my windows. Sorry, I could hear him coming, so I had to mute that all the time. Anyway, the overall of this book, for me, always important. The ever important. Would I recommend this book to somebody else? But I see, if that's a good read, pick that up. Definitely, right? Cover, great. Interior art matching quite well. Story, like I said, I love the absurd. I also like anthropomorphic animals. I have full runs of Howard the Duck, Spider-Ham, Captain Carrot, and his amazing zoo crew. So even a talking wolf always appeals to me as well, right? So I like that they made him intelligent in there, not just the monster werewolf, which I guess they can't be a werewolf. That's why they had to call him a man-wolf. I know that Universal owns the publishing rights or whatever. I don't know what it was that they can't, use werewolf. That's why they always have to change it to something or other. Anyway, art was good. Story was great. The concept of taking this character and being as absurd it was, plus the fact that it was for the fans, right? To finish off the storylines, we didn't have our fans hanging. All in all, that totaled up for a 4 for me as well. Like this book, I definitely recommend it. Do I ever think it's going to be valuable? No. But I think it's always going to be one of those, you're going to love it or you're going to hate it, right? You're either going to be like, this is ridiculous and I hate it, or this is ridiculous and I love it. And I think we all of us kind of fell more on this is ridiculous and I love it sort of side of this book. So yeah, definitely got that 4 for the concept for me as well, or for 4 for the overall. I think it was one of my better picks that I've done. So yeah, it was really good.
This is like the Big Trouble in Little China of comic books.
Yeah, right. It's just so wacky. You're like, what's going on here? And I know, they're trying to get some Kirby stuff going. I don't know what's going on there, but it was good. It was well done. These guys were really flexed their creative muscle here and did a good story that did right by the fans. So yeah, I gave it a 4.
Okay, guys, okay. You guys convinced me. I mean, because when you started talking about the ridiculous, that sold me. You're absolutely right. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. It's creative. It's different. It's taking a chance. I got to give that a little bit more of a bump up. 4.
Nice.
Excellent. And it feels like a comic book. A lot of these big sweeping arcs and stories and seriousness don't feel like comic books. This feels like a damn comic book or a serial from the 50s or 40s.
Yeah, I know.
And it doesn't pretend to be anything else.
No, it definitely does not pretend at all. It's right there. And, I that's one of my complaints about modern comic books is the stories are good, but they're always written like the guy's trying to write a movie script. You know what I mean? Not like he's trying to write a comic book anymore. Who could sell what studio next? So yeah, that'll conclude our grading of Marvel Premiere number 45. This beautiful issue, which if you see it at the flea market or there is a True Believers, you see that one at your LCS, I would recommend picking this guy up for a couple bucks and giving it a read. I'm going to go out and find number 46. So there you go. I got to see what happens now. I'm like, it's kind of cool, like he's a god and he's gotten into war. And it's just sort of getting cooking at the end here. Like, I'll catch you, I'll avenge you. And then we cut to the next book, I guess. Right. So anyway, I'll find it. It's not going to be terribly hard to find that book.
It's worth picking up. First of all, the Perez art, even on that second book, is even maybe a little better than this one, in my opinion. So because there's a lot of exposition, but there's also a lot for him to do because he has to resolve the situation, and so you have a lot of more emotional moments in that comic than this one. So
they should have had him they should have just scrapped this bad guy they got in here, this tier guy, and just had him fight like a nihilist or something, and then in the negative zone or the in-betweener or the stranger just went totally ham with it. But good fun.
Impossible Man jumps in there. Anyway,
I got the book for Kenny, by the way, pulled up over here.
Okay, good. What was the chat overall, Genome? You got
that? Came in at a 3.5 according to math. So it was the same math as mine, same scores. Yeah. So really close book, everyone. I think we can all agree this is a quality book.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's conclude it, and we'll go around and we'll find out a little bit about what's going on with you gentlemen. David, you got anything coming up on your channel?
I'm going to be making another batch of vanilla soon, extract. I bought about a gallon of bourbon, and I got some vegetable glycerin on order. So I don't know if I'm going to do a video on it. I mean, it's just pouring the liquor into jars basically and throwing beans in it, but maybe that. But I just uploaded the game video on the other channel tonight, and there was another project I had thought about doing, but I'm not sure if it's going to get done yet. So I'll wait on that before I even announce it. So I'm just not putting anything up right now. So very little going on.
How's your gaming channel going?
It's okay. I just don't upload much because I'm too busy editing for the other guy's channel. So I just don't have time. He gives me like 5 or 6 a week to do, and between work and church and everything else I do, I just don't have a lot of time at night. So there's just no time for videos.
Yeah. That's fair. You got to pick your priorities, as it were.
Yeah, I'll take money.
Mr.
Right
Medarog. Yeah, Mr. Medarog, how about you, sir? You got something coming up on your channel?
The roundup is up today. If you're interested in entering any comic book contests, go check out my video that dropped earlier. I haven't returned any comments yet because I've been busy working on the new house, but I will do that tomorrow. I'm working on a couple different projects. One with Comic Mag Musings coming up next month. I'm working on a burn project with one of the gentlemen here in the chat from Heroes to Icons, and also with J Hood Creative. So that'll probably be happening in August sometime. So I got those sort of like on the back burner, but every Thursday I'll come up with some kind of video, either the roundup or some kind of special video. I have a few things in mind for this Thursday. So check it out if you like the obscure nature of and in-depth nature of comics.
So yeah, if anybody watching who would be surprised if they don't know, Roger does what he calls the comic book roundup, which is a comprehensive list of all the comic book channels that are having contests that you can enter. So if you like that, there's lots of channels that give away some pretty crazy stuff out there. So well worth watching that comic book roundup. Of course, for me, there'll be another undervalued video tomorrow. I've got it all set up, and of course, we're going to drop it on Friday at 5. I'll have a live premiere at that point, where I'll be in the chatting with people as the video first premieres. And yeah, that's about all I've got. But I mean, it's a lot doing my videos. Enough for the masses. Anyway, yeah, that's what I've got coming up. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being on my channel and again doing Graders Notes. Getting really close to going into year 3 now, right, on Graders Notes. And yeah, I think we're going to keep going. Anyway,
so in 2 weeks,
Kenny's book in 2 weeks.
All right, we did. Without Kenny here, we have no note.
Yep, no, he sent it to us. I think Genome has it.
Oh, he did.
It's in, yeah. Share if you want to share the screen. I got it down there.
Oh, I see it. What a issue!
Like a watercolor in the rain.
Assassin.
Yep. Sienkiewicz, I think Miller on the scripts and Sienkiewicz on the art.
Yeah,
nice.
That's right. Yeah.
I haven't read that in decades, so looking forward.
Neither. I think I have it. I'm pretty sure I have it.
I know I don't. If I did, it was long ruined ago. I can't remember. But Fallout 50 book, man. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the epic line. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I think, no ads and higher quality paper, if I recall. Yeah.
And
no
more
adult
comic
content.
authority.
More adult. Yeah.
Yeah. No comic authority.
No comic books.
Good pick, Kenny.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Very out from left field. I thought you could pick another modern garbage comic. 2010 plus.
Hopefully he'll be back from work in 2 weeks.
Hopefully,
so.
It'll be on his channel, so we better be.
It better be because it's on his channel.
All right, guys, that's hilarious.
All right.
Yeah, we missed you, Kenny. I'm sorry you weren't here today.
Yeah,
we
sure
understand. Kenny's a busy man. Anyway, yeah, we will see you again in 2 weeks' time on Kenny Comic Head 84's channel, and where we will be reviewing Electric Assassin #1 from the limited series. Awesome.
Amazing.
Just reminding everybody, Wednesdays might be New Comic Book Day, but every day is
Every day is Old Comic Book Day.
We will see you next time.